Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my channel. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I am back on the story about the Kentucky sheriff who shot and killed the judge. The body camera video that came out shows the sheriff right after he was arrested. A lot of questions about it. So I am talking to a forensic psychologist, an expert, about what he thinks, what stands out to him. Also in this episode, we have new information from a former official who worked in the jail in this Kentucky county about what he is saying about the latest allegations involving what happened in the jail. All of it coming up in this episode of Brian Entin Investigates. Hey guys, so a lot of people have a lot of different theories about this body camera video that shows Letcher County, Kentucky Sheriff Mickey Stines right after he was arrested. It was September of last year for shooting Judge Kevin Mullins. Why did he keep saying that he was in fear for his safety? He said it over and over again in the body camera video. I had a forensic psychologist review the video, and I wanted to get his take. This is what he does for a living, on what he thinks was going on with the sheriff. You're going to hear exactly what he had to say in a moment. But first, let me just refresh your memory for some of you who haven't seen the video or haven't seen the video in a while. If you didn't see one of my previous episodes where I showed the video, I want to refresh your memory and just play a little bit of it. If you want to see the full video, go back several episodes. But here's a little bit of the body camera video from when Sheriff Stines was arrested.
I gotta get put in a vehicle and go outside.
Well, yeah, I understand why you're worried, but at the same time, you know how it is with something like this. We're going to be worried about you in the jail down here with local people.
Well, right now, I'm alive and well, no weapons on me. So if I leave this building, I won't draw another breath.
We're going to
Go where?
in one of these rooms, and we're going to talk real fast.
Oh yeah, not in one of these right here.
I don't know. I think they cleared one out, so.
I feel safe doing that.
Why? I ain't gonna let nothing happen. Okay? I ain't gonna let nothing happen to you. So don't worry about that. I'll stick with you until you go to your cell. Okay? You'll be all right. I promise you.
I know better than that.
What? Mickey, you know, we just talked about we've known each other forever. I ain't gonna let nobody hurt you. So I see everything.
I don't care if everybody hears. I just don't feel safe.
Okay. Well, here you should feel safe. There's cameras here. There's people everywhere. People in there. So if we pull up some chairs right here, would you talk to us right here?
And I don't have a problem with transport and stuff.
Well, that's transport is another issue. We'll make sure you're safe on that too. We'll wait till after we get done talking.
I ain't trying to be difficult, guys, but I don't feel safe.
Dr. John Fabian joins me now, forensic psychologist, also author of the book Forensic Neuroscience and Violence, which is scheduled to be released later this year, but is available on pre-order. Dr. Fabian, thank you for joining me. I've been looking into this case for a while now. Really unusual. I mean, I cover a lot of crime, and I've never heard of a sitting sheriff shooting a judge in the courthouse, in the judge's chambers. And we've been digging into it. I mean, there's a whole backstory and all sorts of allegations of sextortion and this sex ring behind the scenes. But I'm very curious what you think about the body camera video, because the sheriff, to me, seems very paranoid. I mean, what were your first thoughts?
Hey Brian, thanks for having me on. I would agree that he did present as paranoid. He had a bit of an unusual affect, emotional response. He was fearful that his family, especially his daughter, would be injured, killed. So the paranoia was certainly there, and also noticed that he was a bit confused about where the jail was and how to get there, even though he'd been there thousands of times.
What did that mean to you?
Well, If he's that confused, perhaps there's a break of contact from reality alongside with the paranoia, which would suggest a psychotic disorder of some sort.
Can someone, like his defense team has described it as an extreme emotional disturbance. I mean, he's the sheriff, so obviously, normally he doesn't act like that. Can someone just like snap that quickly?
Yes, human beings can snap for a variety of reasons and due to a variety of disorders, environmental stressors. Uh, it's hard to tell without evaluating him, but an extreme emotional disturbance is a legal process in Kentucky versus an insanity defense. But their defense team can try to apply both of those um, statutory, the legal criteria for both of those in his defense due to mental illness, a psychiatric condition, even if it was not a long-term condition. I think the important part here is, was this a rational motive or was it delusional motive?
And what do you mean by that?
Well, a rational motive would suggest that what he was thinking and doing was sensible to you or I, and that it was based in reality. A psychotic motive would be based in some type of psychotic episode, brief psychotic disorder, so not as long as maybe a chronic schizophrenic condition or some type of delusional disorder that had a later onset in life. So really, it's a fact-checking case. So forensic psychologists, psychiatrists, and like myself have to do some digging, have to fact check and rely on detectives, other law enforcement, data, information, investigative processes to see, hey, was this really based in reality, or maybe, is he mentally ill?
When he kept saying you're going to kill me to these other officers and deputies and people who he clearly knew. I mean, they were saying, Sheriff Mickey, we've known you for 20 years, like we're not going to hurt you, and he just kept saying it over and over again. Did you find that to be like genuine?
Um, the genuinity of his responses in that moment, are difficult to tell unless like I could assess him. So, um, when you look at the case, though, it's unusual procedurally. With I think I would want to see his deposition or his testimony about the scandal, and I would want to see, when I review some of this evidence, it appears to me that this sextortion ring in the judge's chambers could very well have happened. So, but the paranoia could be exaggerated, feigned, or malingered at the time. Um, we see that in unusual and rare cases. It's possible, but given that he's confused, he's paranoid. We want to look at the length of time of the paranoia. And what's important is that he's going to be sent to an inpatient psychiatric forensic facility and be evaluated and tested as to response styles and faking mental illness or whether he's presenting as genuine.
The other thing that I noticed was that when they were asking him about his Miranda rights, or he was asking them, he was seemed kind of confused about that, which, as a sheriff, that's pretty basic information that he would know about. What did that tell you?
Well, the confusion of his Miranda rights, you know, could be indicative of a psychotic disorder because when someone is actively psychotic, cognitively, they can be very confused, separate from any uh, other breaks of contact with reality, such as delusions. We call them persecutory delusions, or, hearing voices, let's say, auditory hallucinations.
If you were brought in to evaluate the sheriff, how can you tell now if he was being genuine then?
Good question. So when we evaluate a defendant for not guilty by reason of insanity or an extreme emotional disturbance at the time of the offense, it's a retrospective past mental state forensic evaluation. And so we rely on their self-report now about their previous mental state. We also rely on a lot of other collateral information, depositions from alleged victims, and video footage of the offense. I know there's another deputy involved, at least one other one in the sex ring. So um, I would look at a lot of other information in addition to the defendant's self-report now. Finally, I'd be doing testing with the defendant to see if he's genuine in his responses or if he's exaggerating or faking mental illness.
And something else interesting that his attorney has told us is that so he had this deposition coming up as part of this federal lawsuit that involved the judge and some others and this whole alleged sex ring. And the sheriff had this big deposition where he was going to have to sit down and sort of spill the beans, answer a lot of questions about who did what and what he knew. And this shooting, him shooting and killing the judge, was right before this deposition. What does that mean to you?
Uh, yeah, I mean the stress of a deposition and the nature of the information, his involvement in this or what he did know, or if he was trying to um, protect or implicate the judge. I mean, all of that could be related to an onset of mental illness. That would be unusual, but it's possible. So in these cases, a prosecutor does not need to prove motive, but a forensic psychologist wants to. They want to understand the motive and the reasoning and the whys of how something happened. The prosecutor proves the hows. So as an expert witness, in forensic psychology, we're looking at really human criminal behavior. And in this case, if it's rational behavior, then it could be related for a couple different reasons. One, uh, the sheriff may have wanted to protect other people, other women from being sexually abused and assaulted by the judge and potentially other deputies. So he may have wanted to get rid of the judge. However, uh, the other thing I'll say is that when I was reviewing the alleged victim, Ty Adams' statement, I don't know what her motive would be to lie and make these stories up about the judge and being raped by him years before.
So the judge would have sex with inmates from the jail.
Yes.
And you saw it.
Yes. I was part of it. I was one of them. Not just from being in jail, like coming in off the street and seeing them. Yeah.
How did they keep it a secret?
It wasn't a secret. It wasn't a secret.
Why did you feel like you had to have sex with the judge?
Because he's the one with the power. He holds my entire life in his hands. He's the one that makes the decisions over whether I get to keep my children or not. He's the one that makes the decisions on whether I go to jail.
So what did you think when the sheriff killed the judge? When you found out?
My heart just like exploded in relief. I thought finally somebody is going to see this, because now they can't look away. They have to look. They have to see what's happening here. And then it's been all this time and still not seeing anything happening, Nobody say anything. People have been making videos and coming out with their story for a long time, but they're being retaliated against to the point that they're leaving this. They've had to pack up and leave homes that they own here and leave the state and go rent somewhere else because they've ran them out of town.
Taya Adams, who we interviewed, who's one of the alleged victims, who says that, she had to have sex with the judge countless times. She couldn't even name the number of times because she said it was so many times to get out of offenses, to get out of jail time, that kind of thing. What did you make of her interview? Did you find her to be credible?
Yeah, when I did review Ty Adams' video, I mean, as a forensic psychologist, I am not a lie detector, unfortunately. But I would want to know if she had a history of mental illness. I would want to know potential motives of a false allegation. Typically, sex abuse allegations tend to be true, just based on statistics. And was her motive to some type of financial gain? But she seemed to be very detailed in her facts, and the more I think rational, detailed, plausible information that an individual alleged victim provides, the more likely they are to be truthful. When we're looking to see whether it's a rational or psychotic motive for Stines, we really want to try to see if what the judge did or allegedly did actually happened. Was the judge and other deputies involved in this type of sex scandal? Why didn't this sheriff know, or what did he know? So right now it is up in the air. It's difficult to really conclude. The other thing is he's in a maximum security forensic facility being evaluated, and the testing that's involved with that and the observations are also critical to this evaluation process.
What is that like? How does that happen?
Usually the inmates are sent to a place called KCPC. It's a forensic hospital within the prison system in Kentucky, and they're evaluated, observed, provided psychological testing. They're examined as to whether they have mental illness or not, whether they have evidence of brain dysfunction or not, whether they may be exaggerating their mental illness, their symptoms, and they're also interviewed at length about their mental state at the time of the offense. And it's possible in Kentucky where he would not qualify for a legal defense of not guilty by reason of insanity, but he could qualify for an extreme emotional disturbance at that time, which really assists in mitigating his sentence due to mental illness.
And what's the difference there?
The difference is that if one is found not criminally responsible and that they have a severe mental disease at the time of the offense and they're deemed legally insane, and essentially that means they were unable to understand the consequences, the wrongfulness of their acts, or they could not conform their behavior to the requirements of the law or really control themselves, almost like an irresistible impulse. They would go to a inpatient state forensic hospital and not get a conviction and be released when they're no longer deemed as mentally ill or dangerous to themselves or others. If they were found, let's say, guilty, but really mentally ill and had an extreme emotional disturbance at the time, then they would go to the Kentucky Department of Corrections.
All right, so that is what the forensic psychologist had to say about Sheriff Stines' body camera video. Obviously, with like he said, without doing an actual evaluation of Sheriff Stines, there's only so much he can say. But it's going to be very interesting when there is a trial, if there actually is a trial for Sheriff Stines, because his mental health and evaluations of him and all of that will come up. So we'll get to hear all of that. There's something else I want to remind you guys of. When I went to Kentucky, and you saw the clip within that interview with the forensic psychologist, with Taya Adams, the woman who says that she's one of many women who had sex with the judge because she felt like she had to do that to stay out of jail and was pressured into it, and said she had sex with the judge countless times. But when I was there interviewing her, I also interviewed another woman who said that she worked as a jailer inside the Letcher County Jail, and sort of spoke bigger picture about what was going on inside the jail. She talked about a former deputy named Ben Fields, who pleaded guilty to raping a female prisoner who was on home incarceration, and is also wrapped up in other allegations too, involving sexually abusing even more women. This former deputy, he ended up in the Letcher County Jail, which is kind of interesting because he was a deputy. And she said that he got special treatment. She said a lot of interesting things, and I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you about this again. But I want to play a little in a second. But I want to play a little bit of her interview if you didn't catch it. How long did you work there?
About 3.5 months.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was your job?
Deputy jailer.
And what
I was one of the guards.
One of the guards. So in with all the
Taking
inmates.
care of the inmates and stuff like that, helping give out trays, meds, watches. There's a lot of times I was in the booth, just different things.
When did you realize that something strange was going on at the jail?
When Ben Fields came in and became an automatic trustee. that was what had made my eyes go, oh wow, okay, so our systems aren't how they're supposed to be, not even in our guidelines. It confused me because, you know, most times in jail, when somebody comes into jail, you're there for a while, and then there's the process of, if you want to become a trustee, which is one of the inmates where they get to do special jobs like helping prepare the food or going out on work release, you have to apply for that. You have to ask for it. You have to show that you have the initiative to want to do it. And Ben Fields, from first day stepping into our jail, was a automatic trustee. Special treatment. It was awful. We have 2 solitaries that is beside the ice box where they keep all these supplies, feminine products, pops, stuff like that, which is supposed to be a one-man cell. At some points there's 2 or 3 people in there, but there was 2 men that was in that cell that had gotten moved, so that way Ben Fields could be moved into that cell. He got a brand new bed, he got a brand new flat screen TV, automatic trustee. He had his own pack of cigarettes in the break room, Marlboro Red Shorts. It just wasn't fair. You know what I mean? It just showed the system wasn't how it should be.
Did you ever see anyone having sex?
I never seen anybody having sex, but I had heard stories. One of the female guards specifically was telling me that one of the places she takes male inmates was the storage room, which used to be a stairwell in front of the medication room. It's literally directly across. You can't get in there without a key, and that's where they take them. A lot of times they get took up into the courthouse, especially after hours late at night. Nobody's at work, nobody's up there, so it's all empty.
What did you think when you were working there?
That it was a brothel. It is all just it's all a brothel between all the employees sleeping with each other and sleeping with the inmates that come in. And a lot of them, they are repeat offenders. And a lot of them are permanent stayers. It's nasty. It's sickening.
So those were the allegations that she made. Retired jailer Bert Sloan, who I have tried reaching out to through my producer and would like to interview because he was in charge of the jail. And you guys know I'm respectful. I mean, I'd like to get everybody's side of the story in this and interview them respectfully. So if former jailer Bert Sloan sees this, I'd be happy to interview you and have a respectful interview with you. But anyway, he has spoken out to the local newspaper there in Letcher County, the Mountain Eagle. And I wanted to read you part of this article. If you want to read the whole article, you can go to the Mountain Eagle website. I just want to read you part of it, though, because I think it's important to provide some context about what he is saying and sort of the bigger situation here and the reaction to these interviews that I've done and that other people have done on a lot of the situation with the sheriff shooting the judge, but also these allegations of a bigger sex ring. So this is just part of the Mountain Eagle article that I want to read for you. Sorry, I'm like super tired. I'm still in Minnesota, and it's been a long day, but I wanted to tell you guys about this. So this is the article. Retired Letcher County jailer Bert Sloan has asked for a criminal investigation of allegations of sex abuse and rape in the Letcher County jail and courthouse. So he's asking for a criminal investigation. Sloan said he has the right to request an investigation as the former jailer. Sloan, who has not been personally named in the accusations, took office in January 2019 and re-elected in 2022 and retired at the end of August last year. He said he feels his reputation and the reputation of his former employees and family have been damaged, and he wants state police to determine one way or another if any of the allegations raised about public officials are valid. His brother Brian Sloan, who served as chief deputy jailer under him and under jailer Don McCall before him, was appointed to replace him, resulting in accusations of nepotism. Brian Sloan was hired by jailer Gary Cornett, who was jailer before McCall. Bert Sloan's wife Donna also worked at the jail before he was elected. Sloan made the request for investigation last week after becoming frustrated with rumors that he said paint him and others in a false light. I spoke to Assistant County Attorney Mike Watts, and he has put in a request to the Kentucky State Police for an investigation, Bert Sloan said. The allegations about jail and courthouse officials and employees began after the conviction of former Deputy Sheriff Ben Fields, that's the deputy I was telling you about, who was moonlighting with a private company that handled home incarcerations. Fields pleaded guilty to third-degree rape and third-degree sodomy, admitting that he had sex with a woman who was awaiting trial and in exchange did not charge her for the electronic monitoring ankle bracelet she was required to wear as a condition of bond. In at least one instance, Fields admitted in a deposition that he had sex with a Pike County woman, Sabrina Adkins, in the restroom in Letcher District Judge Kevin R. Mullins' chambers after hours. Fields served as bailiff for Mullins and had a key for a side door of the courthouse. The admission by Fields came while he was under oath during the discovery process of a civil lawsuit filed by Adkins and another jail inmate, Jennifer Hill, who was also a plaintiff in the lawsuit against Fields and the office of Letcher County Sheriff Shawn Stines. Miss Hill died after the suit was filed. So these are all things that we've told you about in terms of Ben Fields. While Fields' case drew statewide attention after the civil suit was filed in February 2022, scrutiny became more intense last September when then Sheriff Stines shot and killed Mullins as he sat at his desk smoking a cigarette. And then it just goes on to say since then, and again, you can read the full article, but lurid rumors have exploded on tabloid television shows, TikTok, and YouTube channels run mostly by women who spent time in jail. Those appearing on the shows say they are recovering from addictions, and court records show most have been convicted of crimes here and in adjoining states, have been fired by the jail or are in relationships with convicted felons. The women claim they either knew about or were involved in sexual relations with the late judge, and the jail guards and unnamed higher-ups had sex parties with inmates. These critics have claimed that while Fields was in jail for 6 months, he received preferential treatment because he had been a jail guard before and because his wife Angie was chief deputy. Angie Fields was never served as a chief deputy in the jail and left her job at the facility located in the basement of the courthouse before the civil lawsuit or criminal investigation of her husband began. It's interesting. All these people know each other. Sloan said he always thought he had a good reputation across the county, but he now hates to go out of his house because of what other people might think after listening to the rumors being repeated on social media. I feel like I did the best I could, he said. I did my best. I know I made enemies with my job, but I really liked the inmates. Most of them were excellent people. Once you got them off drugs and got them straightened out, excellent people. Sloan acknowledged that he made Ben Fields a trustee. So he did say that he made Ben Fields a trustee, which you remember in the jailer who I interviewed, or the former jailer, that's what she was saying. So Sloan acknowledged that he made Ben Fields a trustee during his time there, but said there were other trustees and they all had the same privileges. And again, if you want to read more of the article, that's only part of it. You can go check out the newspaper there, the Mountain Eagle. So hopefully Bert Sloan will reach out and again, I would be happy to do an interview with him. I'd be happy to do an interview with any of the officials or former officials in Letcher County because at the end of the day, we're just trying to figure out what happened, what's going on, and we want to hear all sides. So that's sort of the update. Thank you for watching, and we'll continue to stay on this story, obviously, just like we have been. There's other people that we've already been talking to. We may be making another trip out to Kentucky. So I'll keep you guys posted, and I appreciate you guys for watching this video, and I'm so tired. Hopefully all this made sense because I'm going to go to bed now. All right, see you guys.